Good morning. How are you? It's Louisa Munson from the Barefoot Broadcast. Now I've got Sarah back again. I'm so lucky to have Sarah. I really am. I love having it. So she was just on the show on Friday, and we were talking about whether we needed, whether we could actually manage relationships when there were expectations put on them. And I'm sure we will kind of come back to that conversation at some point, or even have Carl and Bob talk about it, because they had some input as well. So maybe there's a bit of a theme there. But today we are going to deep dive right into what makes us wonderful and where our superpowers are. So our title is, what superpowers can show up when you are truly being you? And I don't know what your experience of this is, what you've noticed about your own skills, but let's have a really open conversation about this. Let's explore this, see when it's worked, when it hasn't, and so on and so forth. Let's bring Sarah on now with her very special little bit of music. Good morning, my love. How are you?
Good morning. I think I need to get a special hat or something.
Oh, that's quite good.
Yeah, I'll have to see what I have around here.
I'll see if I can send you one. I'll get Minnie to make one or something.
Oh, that'd be cute. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. I feel really good actually. Yeah, sometimes we need to make some big decisions, don't we? And I find, I don't know. It's interesting because I'm talking with you like the lady of considering questions and seeing things from all sorts of different perspectives and possibilities. That's how I see you. That might not be your official title, but thank you. This weekend, I've just been sort of opening myself to other possibilities, and in that, I felt lighter. And
Yes.
I think that kind of fits in with today's show as well, really. But how are you, and where would you like to start?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm
Yep.
here, and I'm happy to be back. So if it's funny because I didn't really remember I was going to be on Monday, because Friday I was kind of a last minute sort of a thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then so yeah, but this is great. This is good for me. I enjoy it. So
Oh,
um so the whole idea of I just wanted to start with this topic, just sort of to
mhm.
say where I see it sort of developing into this
Okay.
question.
Oh,
So
okay.
um so somewhere along the line, we're being ourselves, let's say
Mhm,
maybe in childhood, or a certain time in our lives where we're being ourselves and we're happy to be being ourselves, and
mm,
then somebody will judge what we're being, or they'll judge something about us, a quality,
mm.
um, where you're just like, "I didn't know that was wrong. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
know that was judgeable until you
Mhm.
just told me, thanks." You know? So there's this along the line, there's all kinds of these throughout
Mhm,
life, and they start right away because it's, sometimes telling us what to do and not to do is a way to keep us safe, right? But as children, you know, um, then then you leave, let's say, from that incident where somebody just said, "Oh, boy, you're great at everything, aren't you?" Or something like that.
Yeah.
One of those comments that's
Backhanded
like,
compliment.
yeah. And then you leave from that and you go, "Oh, well, I I guess I can't be that. Now I have to pay attention to not being myself so that I won't
Mm,
get criticized." And so for me, it starts off with this judgment that we either align and agree with, or we resist and react to it, right? So
mhm.
we take
Yeah.
this judgment of ourselves, and we didn't even know because we were happy. One of the questions that I ask is, what if you were having so much fun that you didn't even notice when other people judge you?
That is a really good question, isn't it? I need to just timestamp that so I can write it down and ask myself it so many times a day. Before we go any further, I just want to
Yeah.
welcome, we've got Colleen Murphy joining us,
Hi,
who I
Colleen.
believe is actually in our time zone. So she's come over
Ooh.
from the US. And if I'm not mistaken, you're still here, aren't you, Colleen? And I'm looking forward to meeting you. So let us know when you're in the Silver Coast, when you're coming up to SMDP. But bon dia, Louisa, Sarah. Hi,
Bon dia.
thanks for joining us. We've got Siri joining us from Norway. How's it going there, Siri? Is
Hi.
it darkness now for the next couple of months? Colleen is saying, I am here. What in my house? What are you right now?
She's right behind you. No.
That would be so freaky, wouldn't it?
Uh,
Oh, yeah. So welcome everyone that's watching, by the way. Please do let us know your superpowers. Go on, Sarah. So like, if this
Okay.
starts when we start to judge ourselves, like we start to tighten ourselves in.
Mhm. So I have the idea, I guess, that every quality has sort of, um, well, I'll use some terminology from another thing, that a tool that I use, but it has an exalted aspect
Mhm.
and it has a detriment aspect. So it doesn't matter what the quality is. Sometimes we use it against ourselves. So there's like
Yes.
good and bad, like you said in previous shows, light and dark. So
Mm.
for example, if someone's shy, there are benefits to being shy. It's a very
Yes.
thoughtful person,
Mhm.
somebody that's really maybe a great listener.
Mm.
There's all of those aspects of it. And then there might be times when somebody's like, "You're so shy, like come on." So
Yes.
so there's these and this when this person, so I'll get my thoughts straight again. So when you're judged and then you
Mhm.
align and agree, or you resist and react to this judgment that
Mhm.
someone said about you, um and then that's when you're sort of like, okay, now I've got to just watch myself. And all of a sudden we're not being ourselves anymore. This whole
Yeah.
idea of being yourself, we're bending and stapling and folding ourselves. Like I picture it like morphing ourselves into this uncomfortable shape to
Yeah.
fit into some pretend shape that we think other people want.
Yeah.
And and then life goes on. You're like, oh well, that worked. I got accepted into that group, or this person likes me. They might like you, but you don't even like yourself because you're not being yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now I fit in and now I don't even like myself because I'm doing all these things that aren't me. And so I think there's this point in life where you sort of, and maybe it's points where you sit and you're like, what doesn't feel right about this anymore? Or you start to
Mm.
maybe even feel depressed and you have no
Yeah.
idea where it's coming from. And I just really think, for me, when I would just sit and consider, um, you know, I can give you an example. I can give you an example of what I'm talking about. I had a person one time that I really thought highly of, because this
Mhm.
is when it's the worst, when it's someone that you think really highly of
Yeah.
and you really like them, and then they tell you something that's wrong with you,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so she basically one day, I don't know, she was doing numerology or something. And so
Mhm.
she's sitting there with my numerology chart, and there were all these 22s in it. Like so,
Mhm.
because and um she points them out to me, um which she also had a 22 in hers, but
Mm.
apparently she did this grid and I had too many of them. I had way too
Okay.
many 22s. So
Mhm.
she just looks at me and she's like, "Oh, you might be a bit too much for some people." And it's how I received it, right? Because
Yeah.
I already thought
Yeah. I
that I
imagine
was a bit. Go ahead.
sorry, I imagine from, what you were telling me about your childhood and, the level of too muchness within your
Yeah.
family, I imagine you'd heard that before. I've definitely heard that before. Oh, you're too
Right.
much.
Right. And it was this, so starting right out, it was like, how do I make myself less
Yeah.
so that I don't stand out as too much?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, because I was already dealing with that. So then when somebody tells you something that's wrong with you that you already kind of think yourself,
Mm.
that you're kind of trying to work with it,
Yeah.
that's when it impacts us. That's when we get
Yes.
stuck with the judgment.
Yeah.
Um, and I just want to give a quick little tool with that. There, you don't have to align and agree or resist and react to
Mm.
every judgment. Um, y- Learning how to be the rock in the stream and just receive it, let it flow right past the rock and let it go out the other side,
Yeah.
as it's just an opinion that someone has. It's a point of view.
Yes.
Um, and just to round this all out into the question, which is what superpowers can show up when you're truly
Mm.
being you. Um, what are the things that require somebody to be too much? I
Yes.
mean, everybody isn't for everybody. Do we
Yes.
really want to be so cyborg like that that everybody is just knows what to expect from you, or
Mm.
um what, how can you take that thing that's like, oh, you're too much? Well, how could I take that and do something fun with it that's actually
Yeah.
me being me? So allowing myself to be too much, knowing that I can be too much, um but at the same time, it's I can take that too muchness and maybe I can do a comedy show.
Yeah.
Maybe I can take that too muchness and what are the ways that you can take that skill, that uh personality trait,
Mm.
and own it and be the best version of that and stop trying to not be it.
Yes.
So what if that's the thing that makes you money? What if that's the thing that makes your career? So
Exactly.
if you look at what are the things that you think are wrong with you
Mm.
that are actually your superpower, and sit and brainstorm with a friend or sit with somebody and maybe focus in on a couple of these things and change the perception of that thing that you think is wrong.
Mm. I love that. um, I've got so much that I could add to this.
Please,
But it could
please.
sound like my sad story of how I diminished myself from early childhood. I mean, I learned early on because of the family story that all redheads are too much, they're aggressive, they're
Mhm.
angry, they're too independent, and they're trouble. And so
Mhm.
I had that from day one. Obviously, I
Yeah.
can't consciously remember hearing my parents say that, but my mum even jokes about the story of finding out that, I was one of them and,
One.
and saying, "Oh god, we've got another Christine, that's her sister." So
Oh.
already, like, in my mum's first thought of, this is her first child, she's like, "Oh god, we've got another Christine, her sister," who I know that my mum has massive stories about being too much and being too independent
Yes.
and being too difficult. And, yeah, and it's funny, there's, like a family joke, my sister was talking about, if they found out that they had a redhead, they'd be saying, "Put it back, quick, chuck it back in." And, yeah, I grew up with the joke of it and trying to diminish it, but because I had this idea that, put on me that I was automatically too much, too difficult,
Mhm.
too
Mhm.
aggressive was one that was really put on me a lot. I spent my whole time just people pleasing and being as
Mm.
agreeable as possible, which really wasn't in my best interests. Well,
Now
it
can
is,
can I
and it was in my best interest at the time because it helped me survive, but
right. Well, can I just tell you that you actually have an excellent superpower that I witness, which is you are really great at framing things in a way that are the most pleasing. You're excellent at taking information and presenting it in the most pleasing way possible. And so you bring
That's
that
come from that,
into
sure.
your career. Yeah.
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 Yes. I mean, I should be thanking them really. Um,
You could slap them with one hand and thank them with the other. I don't know.
that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea, actually. But it's funny, isn't it? Because like the already listening ear that we have because of what we've been told is always looking for more and more of those stories and more of those confirmations that you might not be quite right. Um,
Mhm.
I can see we've got quite a few comments coming in. Can I just
Mhm. Yes,
welcome
please.
everyone? So Siri saying darker, shorter nights, days indeed, light hibernation. So Siri
Yes.
lives really, really, really close to the tippy top point of planet Earth, or wherever we are in, and she goes through these really, really dark winters, and then has
Wow.
these really, really bright summers. And so I imagine that must really change. How you look at life, actually, Siri. Must be quite an experience that we can't possibly understand. Vivian is saying, I think that's bom dia, probably. Bom dia, alegria, ladies. Hello, everybody, and the ladies. Owen Lloyd Martin, hi, everyone. Good morning, Portugal. It's Kyle upstairs saying my favourite show. Don't tell the others.
We won't.
We won't. Your secret is safe with us and whoever listens. Bob, I was going to call him Bomb then. Bob's joining us saying, yes, let it flow. Viv saying, I used to stand on my head and spit nickels to please people and make them like me if that's what it took. I don't do that anymore, and it's so liberating. Funny thing is, Viv, I find you extremely likable, and I'd really love to see you stand on your head and spit nickels. Because when I first read that, I actually thought that was one of your party tricks.
I'll take my change purse with me and catch them as she spits them out.
Bob's saying, I can't imagine hearing that from your mum right from the start. Well, I mean, thankfully, my ears probably weren't hearing quite at that point, but the story's told. It's regaled in our family history. Viv's saying, I have a redhead grandson and we celebrate it, except for a few people in the family. He's now 16 and gorgeous and a beautiful soul. It's interesting, actually, because the red hair thing, sorry to turn this all about me, but
And
why not?
that's
I
we're
remember.
doing this intuitively, remember?
we I was working in London, and there was this gorgeous redhead, and we both had long red hair, and this is about 15 years ago, and she's a bit younger than me, and we were sort of the same color, and I was much brighter then, and we were crossing the street in main London, and she was from Canada, and we were crossing the road, and all of a sudden these guys drove right up real close and wound down the windows and shouted out, hey, Ginger Minga, whoa, let's have a look at your vaginas or something like that, like really, really rude. And then just like, ha ha ha, and then just drove off. And she was utterly horrified. She had no idea what had happened, because she said, this doesn't exist in Canada. What the hell? Like why are people drawing attention to people with red hair? I mean, she couldn't understand it at all. So I think it's also contextual. But you might be telling me in a different part of Canada it does exist. But yeah, Viv, in other parts of the world, it's really not a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Like there were always a few uh people with red hair. My mother had red hair.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And a
She
lot of my
much.
aunts. Well, her hair's white now, but yeah,
Mm,
I think and something else you said, Louisa, like when somebody's talking about somebody else
mm,
and they're in your presence and they're talking
mm.
about somebody else, but they don't know that they're also talking about you.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
And it happens a lot. It
It does, doesn't it?
happens, yes, where you will hear somebody um, basically go into judgment about, you know, a person that's doing this, or, like, oh, look how, they'll criticize something that's a characteristic of that person. And you're sitting there like listening, and you're very quiet, and you're just kind of like, on the inside, you're like, they're talking about me and they think I agree with them,
I had
you
that
know.
actually happen last week to me.
Mm. Tell me. Tell
um,
me what that felt like to you, like, just to because it
yeah,
happens a lot.
yeah. I was talking to somebody who was slagging off um, astrologers who do the sort of jazzy side of astrology, like the 12 sign forecasts. um,
Mm.
and saying, "Oh, yeah, it's not the intelligent end of astrology, and I much prefer a different side of astrology that is more philosophical, more spiritual, more this, that, and the other." And I was just thinking, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." And then there was this implication that that it's cheaper, and that maybe it doesn't have a place, and that it's not as valuable. And of course, I do both. And so I
Yeah.
was thinking, "Oh, right, okay, that's interesting." And I really didn't know what to do with that information
Yeah.
because I didn't want to make this person wrong,
Mhm.
because
Okay, let me
yeah,
ask a question because this is juicy. Okay, so you don't wanna make this person wrong,
yeah,
right?
but I
Right?
don't
Wrong?
agree with
So
them. I don't
so
agree
you
with them.
don't wanna make this person wrong.
Yeah.
So what I've been playing around with, and I don't do it every time because it depends on whether I'm up for it or not. Like
Mm,
I literally have to be pretty strong in my energy to be able to sort of pull this off. But
yeah.
if somebody's talking about astrologers, let's say, like in that
Mm.
situation, where they're like, oh, uh, you know, basically anyone
It's
who
all
does
bullshit.
this is a shit astrologer type of
Oh, I've
thing.
I've I've taken loads of flack for it actually in my own family, in friend circles, all sorts of things. So,
So
yeah, this
when
is
somebody
a good theme.
So when
It
somebody's doing that, just as an example, that's when you can go right in to where one of the heart-centered things that Rick talked about on your show was valor
Yes, courage and bravery
and
and
that
valor, yeah.
courage, and go right in and and say, "I think I'm one of those people you're talking about."
That didn't even occur to me. I need to write that
Go
down.
yeah, go in and just say, that and that's another, piece too. I've seen some stuff about authenticity,
Yeah.
and, uh, and it ties in with all of this, obviously, because if this is you and you're, like, suppressing it, or,
Yes.
you're making yourself smaller so someone else can feel bigger,
Yes.
right? So because you want to lift people up. So you
Yes.
don't I can imagine you would just apologize for bringing them down. So you can add an "I'm sorry" to that. You can
Yeah, yeah,
say,
'cause,
"I'm
I love
sorry.
saying
Yeah,
that.
I'm really sorry. I'm one of those people you're talking about," and
Yes.
just smile like
And
my
then,
Aunt Polly used to do.
"Oh, I
She
love your Aunt
smiled when she
Polly."
said
What
no.
about your Aunt Polly?
Like, she would just, she would say what was true, but she would
Yeah,
smile while she said it, and it might not always be what the other person wanted to hear.
yeah.
But, her no was like this, "No, I don't think so." And it wasn't being sarcastic either. It
Yeah.
was a genuine, um it was just a genuine thing, and I always used to admire that, and I would think, "Did she just say no?" You
Mm.
know? Like, because she was smiling. But
This
either way, go, say
I
what
was
you
gonna
wanna
say,
say.
this is really interesting because w I think that has got a lot of power in Sarah. So I'm so sorry. I think I'm one of those people that you're
Yeah,
talking about. And
yeah.
then kind of like be quiet and then let them feel the awkwardness that they're
Yes,
putting on me.
yes,
It reminds me
yes.
very much of, I used to listen to Brian Tracy years ago. He did, a series, quite a few series of podcasts, like the psychology of success, the psychology of this, that, and the other. And it was in one of his, psychology series, and he was talking about guilt throwers and guilt catchers. And often that one of us, like we all have a preference. Um,
Oh, wow.
and that we can all play with them. But he used to say that, and I've used this several times and taught people to use it and say, "Go on, use that, use that." Like when somebody says something to guilt you up, just say, "Are you trying to make me feel guilty?" It sounds, you know,
With
hang on, I need to,
curiosity.
yeah, yeah. Hang on. I just need to stop you there. It sounds like you're trying to make me guilty, or it sounds like you're trying to make me feel guilty. Like, sounds like you're trying to put something on me here. and then kind of hold that space. And normally
Oh,
people say,
yeah.
oh, no, I'm not. No. What I'm trying to say is this. And then they try and reassert it in a more clever way. And that's when you say it again. It still sounds like you're trying to make me feel guilty. So what's going on? And you
Okay.
need to have big balls to say that, because it really
Well,
causes some upset.
so here's the thing. Are you willing for somebody to feel as uncomfortable as are you willing for somebody to feel uncomfortable if it actually makes you more comfortable in the end?
You
Like,
know what? I
that's
think
where
I
that
am.
valor piece comes in, where you have to be brave. You have to be
Yeah.
brave to stand up, and if somebody says, "Oh, all redheads are this," you can just say, "Well, I'm a redhead, and I don't think I'm that," and just wait.
Mm.
Don't keep talking. Only say like 2 sentences. This is something I learned from my husband, just being around him. He will say one short sentence.
Love him.
And it does not bother him if somebody is like, when somebody will say one thing and somebody else is standing there going, "Is that it? Is that all they're like?"
Mm,
And it's just sort of this, um and because I'm just gonna use you an example because
mm,
of how you make other people feel so comfortable,
mhm.
and it's part of your beautiful personality. It really is. You frame things in the best possible way. You would be an expert at doing this. And
That's
that's
an
how
interesting
you could look
perspective.
at this and yeah, look
Yeah.
at it that way because it takes bravery. It takes bravery to stand up and say, I'm just trying to think of another example. Um, and you could do this when there's a lot of judgment going on in a
Mm,
group of people, and it will shut it down because
yeah.
sometimes things just, you're in a group
Mm,
and you'll see in the group there's 3 or 4 people that are all agreeing with each other. And,
yeah.
and our goal or the goal seems to be how many people can I get to agree with my opinion,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
Because if they agree with my opinion, I get to feel better about myself
Mm.
because my opinion is, and you're sitting there and you don't have that same opinion. And you could just say, "Well, I don't think that way," and just stop.
I love that. I have a feeling that yeah, I'm gonna come back into a more playful. Oh, we're joined by so many people here today. I have a
Awesome.
feeling it's time to get a bit more playful and curious and yeah, get our big balls out onto the table.
And
Um,
one more thing I wanna say before you
yeah, go on.
and if somebody's going to be uncomfortable in a
Yeah,
situation, if no matter what, somebody is going to be uncomfortable, why would we always choose ourselves?
yeah,
Why can't we, um, we have to deal with our own stuff, and if someone
mhm,
else is uncomfortable because you're being authentic, that
yeah.
is nothing to do with you.
Mm.
That's their thing.
Well, I love that, and thanks for clarifying that. I mean, obviously, I'd rather um, actually, when faced with these conversations, I'd rather not take the discomfort and
Mhm.
be able to um, work with it in a way that doesn't make the other person feel uncomfortable. I'd love it to be a really
Yeah.
comfortable process, but I understand that that might not happen like that. Let's see what other people are
Mhm.
thinking. I know we've got another redhead here as well. um, so yeah, so we've got Siri saying more inward in winter, summer is more outwards. Do you know, I love the fact that you are so much more connected to the natural phenomenon. We lose
Mm.
track of that quite a bit, but I think it's really important. Vivian is saying just for you, Louisa. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure it's lovely. I think the ginger thing is much worse in Britain. Yeah, my ginger son-in-law from Wales had trouble.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Oh wow! And in
Didn't know about this.
Scotland and we've actually got a redhead that might have a comment on this in a second. Siri's saying, so good then that looks don't matter. Gillian is saying, I was born as a fire horse in Chinese astrology. Even in that year, many babies, particularly girls, were killed because fire horses are way too much. Kind
Oh.
of sobering. And Gillian, obviously, Gillian's another natural redhead, and I'm wondering, did you get any of that, Gillian, in Scotland? Any of that kind of institutional bullying? I'm a wood tiger, and apparently wood tigers aren't really enjoyed very much. Like tiger women are slightly feared as well. Colleen is saying, wondering if the red hair thing goes back to biases against the Scots or Irish from hundreds or thousands of years ago. If red hair is dominant from those countries, it's in the movies. Viv's saying, I'm going to start saying no like that.
Do it, Viv, do it.
Let us know how that happens as well. And Carla's saying, happy full beaver moon in Gemini, dear friends. Is that because I was talking about somebody asking us to show our red vaginas? I'm not entirely sure. But it was a full moon yesterday. And it was a full moon in Gemini. It was. I don't know if it is called the beaver moon or not, or whether that's Carl making fun. But yes, happy full moon.
I think it probably is.
Happy full moon to everyone. Dee Brody saying, morning, gorgeous women, and straight back to you. Colleen saying, wonderful conversation. Jenny Ann Slater saying, oh yeah, happy full beaver moon today, and a week from Sleepy Gemini today, everyone. Siri saying, yay, be more childlike, follow your impulses, trust energy flowing, and move when not comfy. Everything everyone else is saying is always about them, never about you. I love that. Actually, my natural red hair is quite subtle. I used to henna my hair to be proper red. Oh, okay. I think
right into it.
Yeah. I think it's not natural to have constant balance. And Viv is also saying it's called the beaver moon, and may they all be full. I love this. It's a very sort of feminine show today as well. So where were we?
So just on the idea of, well, you were saying
giving us a good framework. Sorry to interrupt.
Right.
You're giving us a great framework to use.
Well, just to your point about, we were talking about if somebody's uncomfortable in the situation. I mean, there are going to be times when we will choose ourselves because that's not, you have to sort of pick your, is it important to you? Is it, I don't think that every single time we have a different opinion than somebody that we have to speak what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just let somebody have a point of view. They're talking. You don't have to weigh in on everything. I mean, that's one of these things that we do. It's like, oh, I need to respond to that, and I need to respond to this, and you don't have to respond to everything. But if there is something that's literally you're feeling your body shrinking, and you're feeling that something you're doing to yourself, you can just ask yourself, would this be a time that would be good for me to speak up before you say something? You can check in with yourself. But I just think if you've been around this person for 10 times and they keep saying the same thing, there might be a point where you need to, you might need to speak up. And you can have allowance to for the things that people say, because not everybody knows that you're taking it as a judgment. They don't always, they maybe don't understand, but you can point it out if it feels like you need to. So this is about this. The show is about what superpowers can show up when you're truly being you. One thing you can do is every time you have this thing about you that you think is wrong, just try turning it around and saying, okay, what's the exalted side of this? What are the things that I can do that no one else can do because of these qualities? How is it that I can actually look at this and say, take the wrongness of me as the strongness of me?
Yeah.
Make look anytime you're going into judging yourself and feeling bad about it, I guarantee you there's somebody else that's looking at that quality you have and thinking, oh, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Might maybe not in every situation, but it's like, and I'm willing to be look at what works and doesn't work. Like say this is, if you're judging yourself about a situation and you leave it, you can say, oh well, that didn't work.
Yes.
Because when you're in an energy that feels true, there's a lightness to it. Like you said, what you said something earlier about something being lighter.
I've changed my thoughts about a few things and
Mm,
instantly felt lighter. And
mm,
that was a real clue that, because like, I don't think, when we get into these thinking patterns and these sort of beliefs, we don't
mm.
necessarily realize that we have a choice to change them. We just might
Y-
think, "Oh, this is what we do. This is the right thing to do in this situation." Um, and I've got this real sort of like, right, let's knuckle down and do more. That's
Mm,
my approach. When anything doesn't make sense, rather than stepping back and really sitting with it and being really silent, actually, I just think, "Ooh, must go to work on this." And I dive
mhm,
straight in. I don't give myself any space. And so yesterday I was thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this. And it was a conversation with Carl actually that really helped, because he was suggesting that I took a bit more space. And in that and it hadn't even occurred to me that space with this particular thing was an option. And then he
Oh,
saw my face light up and my something in my shoulders just go,
mhm,
and then
mhm.
he said, "Oh, yeah, there's something there." And then I was like, "Ah, yes." And then I was laughing like hysterically for quite a while. And it was so
Great.
funny because I felt so much lighter because I'd realized there was a thought that I could change. So I think a lot of us, we don't even realize that there is an option. So, like when you said, um, that I could say, I actually think I'm one of those people that you're
Mhm,
talking about right now.
mhm,
That didn't
mhm,
even occur to me as an option.
mhm. Well, because what would happen, it's almost like putting yourself in the face of danger,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Because there's guns being fired right now, judgments, the machine gun of judgments. And then you're like, okay, am I going to stand up in front of these bullet judgments and
Yeah.
say, hey, target, I'm one of
Yeah.
those people. So it's just, but it's really, I invite anyone who is listening to this, I invite you to try this and see how amazing you feel after you
Mm,
do it. Um, because it's liberating.
mm,
It's a great feeling because you feel authentic. You're like, I just spoke the truth.
mm,
And I feel good about speaking the truth. And if this person um has a different opinion about me, um, that's I care. I
mm,
still care what they think, but I care about myself too.
mm.
Like I want this to be a real thing because if it's not real, I don't want it anyway. It's like I
Yes.
said to you on that show where if somebody's a real arse, and they don't pretend to be anything but,
You're gonna
then we
like
can
it
have
anyway.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because I know how I know they're being themselves and I can
Yes.
call them on it once in a while and they
Yeah.
can call me on my crap. And
Mm,
you know, uh, it's easier, it's more refreshing. Uh it's just it just changes the dynamic.
yeah. Yes, like, instantly when you gave me that as an option, I think I'm one of those people that you're talking about. I
Mm,
realize if you say that, you're not judging yourself in the moment. You're just seeing that as information.
mhm,
And the fact that you're seeing that particular trait as information is probably de-escalating any panic that you might have for being identified in that way.
mhm,
Um, I realize a lot of the things that I keep quiet about are because I feel that there's some shame about what I'm doing.
mhm.
But I guess if you're and it's actually not my shame, it's the shame that other people have put on it that I've
Yeah,
just willingly taken on. But just by saying that, you're signaling in your unconscious mind actually that it's nothing to be shameful for. It's just a fact. Actually, I think I'm one of those people. You're not judging yourself at all.
yeah.
And I think that it probably is helping you back to getting real again and getting back into your body.
Well, Louisa, the way that what you just described, what happens is it goes from them having a judgment
Mm,
and then you having it about yourself that
mm,
it's not acceptable, it's bad, and the judgment, as long as you stay quiet,
mm,
then and I can't speak for everybody. I'm just saying in me, if there is something I know that it doesn't leave me, that thing, that sliver, or that, you know, stick or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it sticks with you because if you align and agree, which I
Mm.
said before, where you're like, oh, I already feel
Yeah,
that
I
way,
love that. Align
or
or agree or resist and react. I love
right,
that. I've written that down.
so resisting and reacting is saying, "How dare they talk to me like
Yeah.
that?" Blah blah blah, or kind of take it inside and then be quiet.
Mm,
Then you're taking that judgment. You're not being an allowance of it. You're
mm,
sort of, it is just an interesting point of view. Like, how
yeah.
many billion people are on the planet now, and
Mm.
everybody thinks they're right. And so who's right?
Yeah.
It's all just a bunch of points of view.
Mm,
It's not real, it's not true, it's just an interesting point of view, and it can shift and change if you're flexible,
mm,
you know? So, knowing that anything that anyone says about you or around you that you take as a judgment is really just another point of view. Like, we're this big fruit bowl of personalities and points of view,
mm.
but we're all fruit.
Yeah, I love that.
So, maybe somebody doesn't want an apple. Maybe they would prefer
Yeah,
to have pineapple. Then go eat pineapple then. Just a thought.
I love it. Yeah, I really, really love it. And I can see that just that as a tool and some of those thoughts that you've shared today could be very helpful in unpacking who you are. Because one thing I've recognized in hearing that you can unpack it is actually I've realized that I've lost who I am because I've kept so quiet about a lot of things and just taken them on and then thought, ooh, must make myself a bit smaller here, must make myself a bit smaller there. Oh no, the 12 sign forecast. Whoa, must oh, I just, I realized that I've forgotten who I am and forgotten actually what it is that I'm passionate about. And so this is really helpful. Like, if I'm allowing myself to feel small in a moment, um, I'm forgetting who I really am. And I'm guessing
Well,
you're all doing that.
right. I kind of picture it this way. It's like taking something that's meant to be part of our aura
Mhm.
and our being, and it's taking it and putting it in a box and setting it somewhere in our body in this box. And then we
Yeah,
just keep all of these parts of our vitality, is what I like to think of it. Like, if you were truly being you and you were walking around today and you were like enjoy and feeling the joy of every moment, and
yeah.
the feeling like um that feeling of falling in love for the first
Mm,
time, and that everything's greener, anything that's green is greener, everything that's bright is brighter. We can have that. We have access to that.
yeah.
It's just a matter of putting ourselves in the place where we're seeing that, getting ourselves so um, just so authentically, just, I deserve to be here. I have this uh, aura, I have this energy, and I'm just going to go be childlike, like you put it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go explore. I'm going to go see what I feel like, you know, doing, or I'm going to choose every 10 seconds something else, or I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to stop every 10 meters or so and say, okay, now what? And then
Mm,
see where your body wants to take you. I loved
mm.
that idea of, because maybe you won't walk in a straight line.
Yes.
Maybe you'll decide to, you know, maybe you'll decide to go left and up into the woods for a while.
Mm,
So you won't know. But if you come to the conclusion that this is exactly the way it's going to be,
yeah.
then you can't have that playfulness. So all the conclusions that we've come to, if we can just like destroy and uncreate every conclusion we've come to in this moment, any conclusion we have about anything,
Yeah.
then what could be possible now?
Yeah, exactly. That's a
And
really expansive thought.
I went on this little journey, but I hope I was staying on track there with
Yeah,
what the point I'm
totally.
trying to get across.
Yeah, well, I realise I've been a judger myself. I realise that when I've seen people who are really truly in the moment of creation, so much so that they really don't give a shit what people think of them, I've really judged them. Um, in particular,
Yes.
in particular, I can think of like um, Dane from Access Consciousness.
Mhm. Mhm.
He's so he appears to be so joyful being himself
Mhm.
and like dressing in anything that he wants, no matter how like childlike it might
Mhm.
be.
Mhm.
It's offended me at some level, and it's because there's a part of me that's not doing it. And I actually went and bought a couple of dresses because I
I
want.
noticed. I love what you have on.
I was complaining, saying I want to buy a dress with a really long skirt that when I twirl around, it flies out. I really want to have something like that. And,
Yay!
and so and I realized that when I just dress top to toe in black, which is what I often do,
Me
um,
too.
it's because it's my head choosing what I'm wearing based on some of the judgments that I've observed. Like I remember early on, I used to love dressing in color as a child. Um, And I remember once, and I was around about 5 or 6, and my mum and dad had loads of people coming to have a party and stuff like that. And so I found like an olivey green top, olivey green trousers, no, a skirt, and then olivey green tights. And one of her really dominant friends said, "You look ridiculous. What are you wearing that for? Like that's it's not even your color. You need to watch what you
Mhm.
wear with that color hair," and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I realized I just don't really wear color. And so I just thought, right, body, what do you want? And I felt the fabric of this, and it's so soft and comfortable. And I thought, okay, I don't normally do this, but sod it, let's wear something with a really bright pattern. So I'm dressing for my body at
Oh,
the moment. And I
I
wonder,
love
I
it.
wonder how that's going to change things for my body. Like, is my body going to feel more relaxed? Because a lot of these judgments that I've taken on aren't necessarily about the person I am, but they're about my body, like red hair, or I walked with a limp until I was about 18 or 19, lots of different things. So I think I've been carrying sort of shame for my body that my body doesn't actually hold. It's only my judgment of my body that's holding that.
And like, if what if we could step into being there's a thing here that's coming up for me about being visible and us
Mm,
trying to make ourselves more invisible. You know,
mm,
if I'm seen, I can be judged.
yeah,
If I'm less visible, then maybe somebody won't say anything. And of course, black clothes make
recede.
feels like they make everything less visible. Um, and it's easy to get dressed, and
Yeah, it
you don't
is.
don't have to do it. There's nothing really creative about it, unless you could probably do a creative spin on black. And I have no judgment about black clothes, and I'm grateful
No,
for
I love
anything
black
that I
clothes.
have
I
that's
will still
black.
wear black clothes.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I want you to know that I will still be wearing black, top to toe
yeah, yeah,
black
yeah.
as well.
But I love what you're saying, because it's actually what you would like, what your body would like to have. You're talking about the
Yeah,
way the fabric feels.
yeah,
And when somebody that's such a classic, high school girls or whenever it is, like, what are you wearing?
yeah,
Walking into a room and another female, uh, or anyone, but mostly another woman, obviously, where they look at you and they start here and they just really slowly look down to your feet, and then back up and go, "Hi."
I had that recently at one of Carl's meetups.
So so when somebody does that, they're not saying a word, but
No,
they're
oh, they're
still
communicating it
judging,
though.
or you feel like it's a judgment.
Yeah,
And so, if before we ever step out into the world, we decide that we will be unapologetically
mhm,
who we are, um, you could have some fun with that.
Yeah.
You could have some fun with it instead of, "Oh, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom and leave."
Mm.
Or, "Oh, now I feel self-conscious." Um, you know, whatever. So, and somebody is, like you put it, you're being an energy they're not willing to be,
Yeah.
and so they're judging it.
Yeah.
And they're being an energy that maybe you're not willing to be,
Yeah.
and then there's like all this stuff going on, whereas if everybody thought they were just in the fruit bowl, nobody would be like criticizing an apple for being an apple. And
Yeah.
there are people who really like apples and that's their favorite fruit, and those
Yeah.
are the ones that the apples want around them,
Yeah.
unless they don't want to get eaten.
Yes, of course. That's really interesting. I'm going to bring up some of these. We've got loads of people commenting. I think this has really like resonated with many people. I'm
Hmm.
guessing a lot of us are being ourselves, but maybe not as much as we want to be, or maybe some are. Let's find out. So yeah, my voice keeps coming and going. Forgive my voice. I feel like I'm like need to keep coughing stuff up. Um, okay, so we've gone past the beaver moon. Colleen saying wonderful conversation. Siri saying, yeah, oh no, we've done that. Sorry,
Yep.
Siri.
It was a good
Oh,
comment, though, worth repeating.
darn, I have to go to the osteopath, but I'll catch up on replay. So I hope Viv has a great session there. Carl is saying good coaching should look like Harry met Sally. I think that's because I was saying, about how I just felt really relaxed and like felt lighter. I mean, I could have been having an orgasm in the chair when, Carl had said that thing that had suddenly freed me and made me feel lighter. Gillian saying, I gave up trying to fit in so long ago that I can't really remember when I did try. I would know how to fit in, and why would I want to? Yeah, good for you, Gillian. That's one thing I know about you from what you shared is that you are unapologetically yourself, and I admire that in you. Siri saying we're not
Right.
supposed to go along with everyone. That's true.
Yeah.
Maria saying, speaking about losing ourselves, my daughter yesterday said out of nowhere, when I'm an adult, I will not recognize myself because I'll be an adult.
Oh
Too
my goodness,
deep
is
for a
that ever?
4-year-old. Oh, isn't that
That's
precious?
amazing.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
incredible.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so true. I'm gonna reflect on that one for a little while.
It's interesting, isn't it, when kids like really know that they're kids and then all of a sudden have a slight panic about what it's going to be like to be an adult and have an adult body. I remember when Digby, our eldest, was about 3, maybe 4. And I shared with him that one day he would probably have a hairy chest and a beard like his dad. And he was in floods of
You
tears.
traumatized them.
Completely. Oh, how we
Oh
love
my
him.
goodness.
Bless him. Well, they're so innocent. They're so great, aren't they? The superpower that comes through will be you and the ability or the gift of you. I
Yes.
hope you all get to see yourself as big as you came here as. I love that. Thank you
Yes,
so much, Siri. You're
yes, I love that
amazing.
too.
And Dee is saying, I'm loving this conversation. And Siri is also adding, I love a saying that goes somewhere along the lines of this: people are like trees. I don't know that one, Siri. I'm wondering what that means. People are like trees. What do you make that mean, Sarah? And Siri, what do you mean by
Well,
that? Like, how do the
I
Norwegians mean that?
I'm guessing it's sort of spin on the like the fruit bowl analogy that I
Right.
was looking at, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I've ever heard it. I'd love to know if there's more to it. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be the end of it. People are like trees, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
Might be a
people.
stoic Scandinavian thing that
Yeah, I like the idea of apparently being like a tree is what you do in what is that? That one of these martial arts. You stand like a tree.
oh,
Qigong, maybe. I don't know which one it is, but
I don't know.
yeah, the so that that whole category, this whole idea of not thinking that we're special.
Mm.
Okay, because there's this whole um I mean, there can be the attitude of, look, you're not special. You like to think you're special, but you're not special. And,
Mm.
there can be people who will, parents who will say, you're
Yeah.
no, you need to be knocked down a peg or two because
Yeah.
you're just like a little too much of this or too much of that. Did she come back with,
Carl did.
Carl did.
Carl came back. People are like trees, they get peed on, but they keep growing. Tree prac tree pack shaper.
They do get peed on.
They also
There
get
you go.
relied upon. They also get lent to, like people make love under trees, don't they? And things like that. All
Okay.
sorts of great things happen in trees and on trees and by trees. Um, Siri's
Get a
saying to
room.
us, okay, people are like trees, so just let each other be. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Thank you for that.
that is nice.
You were
Sorry.
saying, about being like, you're not very special, like the things that people say. Where was that
Right.
leading?
Oh, okay. So the idea of how comfortable does it make people to think that they might have a superpower?
Mm,
Does that make most of us feel like, yeah, I do? Or
mm,
is there the feeling inside of, well, I'm not, I don't see that, or I don't think that. And if I do think that, then there's a judgment about that because I don't want to be superior. That this is
mm.
not about superiority. This
Yeah.
isn't about superiority. This is about stepping into what you were made as,
Mm,
what you showed up as, and wearing the dress that feels good and
mm,
has the colors that you want, the colors that you feel good in, the prints that you feel good in. It's
mm,
about just being yourself. And how do you know what your superpowers are? Like, how can you figure this out?
mm.
You can think back. There's a couple little things that you can do if you want to figure out what those
Yeah.
are, or what more of them are. Think about what you did when you were younger, that you and even in groups or by yourself, what was that thing that you did when you just woke up in the morning and you couldn't wait to just go and do that? What
Mm,
part did you play in the group? What part did you, like, what did you do that was creative? And there's going to be skills and there's going to be attributes that you'll be able to look at and see and back that far.
mm,
That's when you were really, times when you were really feeling light, or try to find a time where you felt that way and then hone in on what that is. And then you can say, you can kind of bounce it off a friend and say,
mm,
there's just so many ways of, there's also human design has as
mm.
another thing I've been delving into. And so there's just in a nutshell, that just there's 5 different sort of general, this is just a fun tool. I'm not saying it's the be all to end all, but it's a fun tool where it's combining astrology and numerology and the I
The
Ching and all
journal.
this stuff. Um, and they'll say, okay, there's sort of 5 general aura types. And so uh, there's some ways to kind of play with that to sort of see where in your body should you be making that body yes or no from, because
Yeah.
not everybody's in the gut. A lot of people
Yes.
say, what's the gut feeling? Well, it's not the gut for everybody. It is for the
Yeah.
majority of people, or for a lot of people. I shouldn't say the majority, but for a lot. So there's some fun things that you can play around with to see, oh, that feels like, that's that playfulness piece. Like
Mm,
when you were talking about being playful, you can take something like that and just sort of say, okay, I'm going to play with this today. I'm going to actually, I'm a projector in human design. You're a projector.
yeah.
We're supposed to wait for the invitation. And it's like, and waiting for the invitation isn't always fun. But when I don't wait for the invitation, because I played with this, when I don't wait for the invitation on important things,
Mhm.
then I end up feeling like it didn't work quite right. I get to feel
Right.
like if I get invited, it feels better for me. So,
Mm,
and when I play with that and it's like, oh yeah, that's, I get to feel sweet instead of bitter, you know? That's the whole thing for a
Yeah.
projector. So just playing around with it, being childlike. I love that. I love that idea.
Mm.
And recognizing that if you're not stepping into what you are, then it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I really, really love all of what you're saying. In fact, like with the sort of being a projector, the idea that, you know, if we haven't been invited, what do we do? Well, immediately I just thought about what I would be doing if I had no responsibilities to do anything. And actually, I'd be pottering around doing whatever took my fancy. When I was
Right.
thinking about me as a kid, I never ran out of things to do because I always was curious about how does this work? How does that work? Oh, I wonder
Mhm.
if I can recreate that. I wonder if I could draw that. I wonder if I could make that. I was always wanting to just be yeah, just creating and collecting different things and bringing them all together. I never ever lost that love of and curiosity. So that would just be brilliant if I just stopped trying to fit myself into things and just wait. And in those waiting moments, that's where I'm really myself. It's a fascinating subject. I just wanted to
Yeah.
share an idea. Um, what's occurred to me is, you know, we could ask ourselves all these things right now, um, like who am I, and like what is it to be truly me?
Mhm.
And it occurs to me that like if we haven't given ourselves permission to be free of the judgments, if we're
Mhm.
trying to find out who we really are whilst also holding those judgments in place, it's going to give us a very limited opportunity to find our true selves. And I think I've done that quite a lot. So I think I've said, I really, really want to be me, and also try to do that at the same time as being accepted, being this, being that,
Yeah.
not being too much. And then as I'm trying to think, okay, how can I use my skills to the best possible way? It's a much smaller, much more
Mhm.
diluted version of what I could really fully be. Um,
Mhm.
and so I guess maybe this is just the way I process things, but it might work for other people. It occurs to me that I need to review every judgment that I've held about myself, or in particular, those core ones that I've heard and remembered people say and that I've really kept quiet about. Because they're the ones that I'm carrying some shame about. They're the ones that I'm feeling apologetic about being here for. And I think where that discomfort is probably showing us where some of the biggest gains probably are.
And I love what you just said, because it actually reminds me of what the sense of rejection
Mm,
and how we don't want to be rejected. And
yeah.
so instead of being rejected by someone who, by the way, may not be sitting and looking at your four walls, helping you pay your bills. They
Mm,
are not somebody that you eat meals with. They're not somebody that you have to spend a lot of time around at
mm.
all. And we would rather not be rejected by them to the point where we would actually reject ourselves instead.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ludicrous.
It is, yeah. Yeah, really, really
But we
ludicrous.
do, but I see that that is, it's a dynamic. Um, so what would it be like if you didn't reject anything, including yourself?
Mm.
What could we have where it's like you don't even have to reject somebody's judgment? You could just be like, "Oh, that's an interesting point of view." In
Yeah,
your head, you don't have to say it out loud to them. You can think, "Oh, that's just your point of view."
yeah.
Um, and it's not a good trade-off. It's
Mm.
not a good trade-off. I don't want them to reject me, so I'll just reject myself instead, and I'll stay in this little box. And and again, this might be somebody that you've only see once a year. It's
Yeah.
amazing how these things can impact where it's we make it so important and so big,
Yes.
more important and big than us.
Yes.
And
I'm actually kind of laughing internally 'cause when I think about this last week. I've swallowed quite a few different bits from people who actually don't come into my life that often in
exactly.
all sorts of different ways. I imagine that if I was to sit with this for a while, I'm probably doing it just from dawn to dusk.
That's your full-time job.
Oh, wow. This is so,
Oh.
informative. I really love this. I'm mindful of the time, so I think we should start wrapping up. And,
Mhm.
so we've got, Gillian saying, and welcome back to the show, by the way. I know YouTube has been a bit of a bugbear for you, hasn't it? I genuinely don't get why people wouldn't, why anyone wouldn't be incredible. The fun is exploring the incredible in each man or woman I get to chat with. I love that. And so does Siri, it turns out. She's saying, agree, Gillian. We're supposed to do anything has me heading in the opposite direction.
Mhm.
I love that.
And
And Siri's also saying me too. You two actually should get a room. You two would get on quite well. Go
so,
on.
and I would imagine, Jillian, anybody that you do chat to and you explore that with them, you would be shining a light on that thing for for that incredibility, incredibleness, however you want to put it. Shining the light on that for somebody and giving them a way to like, I never really thought about it that way before. I genuinely feel that there are these things about ourselves that we really haven't spun so that we can see how that they're actually incredible. And that the things that we think are wrong with us are actually superpowers or things that we do, and that we can take up that uh take that quality and look at it that way.
Mm,
And someone like how Jillian's talking, it sounds to me like she talks to people, um, and explores, she says, exploring the incredible in each man or woman she speaks to.
mm.
That's shining a light on those things for that person, and maybe they leave her presence just feeling a little bit different about themselves, I'm guessing.
I imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know that from my own relationship with Gillian. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming back, Sarah.
I
And
loved it.
chatting with me. It's a really nice part of my morning. I really, really love these conversations. Final thought from Gillian. I seem to piss people off very easily, but often don't get that either. Apparently, I can be a bit freaky too. Well,
Be a super freak.
well, yeah, I mean that's I think probably the last thing, isn't it, really? Yes, there will be some people that feel uncomfortable around people that are really, really being themselves. And then I look at some of the people that have achieved the most in this world or who have influenced me the most, and they're often people that see things differently, who are prepared to step outside of an agreed narrative and who really do um, yeah, become like lightning rods for creativity and possibility and perspective and all of those things. So I think there's some really great possibilities in allowing yourself to be in the fullness.
Mhm. And I just want to add to that and say, and there's nothing wrong with you if you're not one of those people either. You
Yeah.
don't have to
Yes.
be a billboard walking around.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, there's just there's this nice there's so many different types of attributes and qualities, and it all makes for everybody's required. You're absolutely required here for whatever it is that you bring to the table. You are absolutely making somebody's day by
Yeah.
being exactly who you are, and somebody isn't going to like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pass the pepper. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I think it's time to wrap up now. Thank you so very much, Sarah, Gillian, Siri. Who else have we had? Carl, Dee,
Viv,
Maria, Viv, and Bob, and Jenny and Colleen, and we had loads of people, and
Oh,
Owen.
great.
Let's not forget Owen as well.
Yes, yes.
We've had loads of people stop by and say hello. So thank you all for all of your contributions and being yourself. And Sarah, once again, thank you for being the wonderful friend and being that I know. I'm very appreciative. Love you. Have a great
Bye,
day,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.